Hi children, we will study some conceptual questions. I am repeatedly saying you will get the concept only if you do different kinds of problems. So let us try them. See now, what do you understand by the term force of friction? The force that opposes the relative motion between two surfaces in contact and acts against the direction of movement is called force of friction. This force of friction always acts against the applied force, and it will be act between the two surfaces which are in contact. When do a force of friction comes into play? A force of friction comes into play when one body moves or tends to move on another body. Right? When one body, the ball is moving on the ground, ball is one body, ground is another body. When ball tries to move on the ground, then only the friction starts. In order to move, starting static friction, after the motion, in order to reduce the motion, kinetic friction. In the terms of rolling, it has to reduce the rolling, that is rolling friction. Right. If the force is applied towards east in order to move a body, in which direction the force of friction acts? West. Act towards west in opposite direction. Give two examples where the force of friction is an advantage. Between shoes and the ground, allow us to walk without slipping, that is one of the advantage. Between the tires of the wheels and the road, prevents the slipping of the vehicles, help to move forward. Give two example where the force of friction is hindrance, that is difficult. Friction wears out the soles of shoe as they rub against the rough surfaces of roads. Okay. Friction wears out the moving parts of machine due to constant grinding, constant using. So that is the drawback. Hindrance means drawback, negative. State two ways of increasing friction between the two surfaces. In order to increase the friction by making the surface rough, by removing the lubricant between the surfaces. If you remove the lubricant, it becomes rough. State the two ways of minimizing the friction between two surfaces. So it is quite opposite. By using lubricants such as oil and grease, we can minimize, and by using ball bearings between the two surfaces, we can minimize the friction. Give two example where the force of friction is hindrance, that is difficult. By using the lubricants such as oil and grease, by using ball bearings. Okay, so that is necessary. Hindrance, it is quite necessary. What do you understand by the term streamlining? We already discussed, children. Streamlining means it is design or a structure of a body that reduces the friction with the surrounding fluid. It may be air or water, by allowing to move smoothly and efficiently. Streamlined bodies have a shape that is sleek and tapered with a pointed or rounded front and narrow tapering, rare to be cut through fluid easily. There will be front and back, there will be the narrow position, in between there will be huge position, that is like bird flying or fish whatsoever. Nature, birds such as eagles and kingfishers, aquatic animals such as fish and dolphins, they will have such kind of things. Man-made objects, aeroplanes that are built and bullet trains have that thing, and even some sort of cars also. Why are the tires provided with deep grooves on their surface? Because tires are provided with deep grooves to increase the friction with the road, provide better grip and prevent vehicles from slipping, especially wet and muddy surfaces. They will use good grip. They will have good grip. Why are knots tied in jute thread not slippy easily compared to silk? We have already studied this concept. Because as compared to silk thread, because the surface of jute thread is rougher and hairier, increases the friction. Jute surface will increase the friction, silk surface will reduce the friction. That is the reason. Friction is necessary, we will explain the statement. Friction is considered to be necessary evil because it has both advantages and disadvantages. Friction between the tires of the vehicle and road prevents slipping of the vehicles. Next one, write any 4 advantages of friction. Helps to walk without slipping, enables us to hold the object firmly, allows vehicles to move without skidding, helps in writing on the paper, board, whatsoever. Static friction is a self-adjusting friction. He is adjusting according to the applied forces. It increases when more force is applied. If you apply more force, static friction is going to be increased. It becomes equal to the applied force until the object start moving. Okay, static friction will be equal to the applied force until the object start moving. Once the object start moving, the static friction will be reduced. It becomes 0. This property makes it self-adjusting friction. Next thing, why are the ships and aeroplane sports cars streamlined in shape? Because to reduce air and water resistance, to minimize the friction of air and water. Static friction, the friction between two surfaces when there is no relative motion between them, that is called static friction. Dynamic friction is also called as kinetic friction. The friction experienced by a body when it is moving is called dynamic or kinetic. Rolling friction experienced when rolls over the surface of another body is called rolling friction. Limiting friction, the maximum value of the static friction which must be overcome to start the motion is called limiting friction. So this is what we call it as limiting friction. It is the maximum value of static friction which must be overcome. The applied force should be more than the static friction. That friction we call it as limiting friction. Next thing is, on a block of mass 10 kg, a child applied a force of 5 Newton. Explain the position of the block and the kind of friction. The block of mass 10 kg remains stationary when a 5 Newton force is applied. This is because the applied force is 5 Newton is not sufficient to overcome the static friction. Okay, to overcome the static friction, 5 Newton force is not sufficient. Since the block is stationary and does not move, the kind of friction acting is static friction or limiting friction. It is not limiting friction, it is a static friction. Static friction balances the applied force of 5 Newton, preventing the block from moving. Next thing is, friction can be reduced by providing wheels. Explain the statement. Friction can be reduced by providing because wheels changes sliding friction to rolling friction. Rolling friction value is less compared to sliding friction, so that the friction is going to be reduced there. And next thing is, explain how maximum static friction is called limiting friction. Limiting friction is maximum value of static friction that must be overcome in order to make a stationary object start moving. It is called limiting friction because it represents the limit of static friction. Limiting friction will represents the limit of static friction when the applied force increases and just equals to the maximum static friction. The object is just about to move. This maximum static friction is called limiting friction. What is the purpose of oiling the machinery? In order to reduce the friction, because reduce friction between the moving parts of the machine. When oil or lubricant is applied, the parts of the machines, it forms a thin layer which fills in the rough, uneven surfaces. This thin layer acts as a cushion between the moving parts and make them slide past each other smoothly. By applying oil, friction is reduced, which results in less wear and tear of the machinery, prevents overheating and make the machine run more smoothly and efficiently. Reduce friction between the moving parts, reducing wear and tear, and reduce overheating. What is frictional force? Mention its type. Mention the advantages and disadvantages of friction. I think we repeatedly said this and you try to understand the concept. See this and you can analyze by yourself, because we have repeatedly said the same concept. You try to read yourself this one. And what are the method to reduce friction? That is lubrication, ball bearing, streamlining and smoothening. Lubrication means applying oil or grease is called lubrication. Ball bearings placed between two moving surfaces reduces the friction. Making an object streamlined, that is in the shape of bird, fly or fish in swimming, and that is streamlining. Smoothening, rubbing or polishing the high surfaces. These are all the reasons to reduce friction. So with this we have completed the concept of friction, children. Okay, so I think I have covered almost all the concepts in case of friction up to 6th standard is concerned. Okay, you try to listen the concepts repeatedly, then try to understand. You don't forget to subscribe, share if you like my channel. Thank you, children.